CapitalFarmCreditPodcast.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday Night Podcast, our weekly look at the area athletic scene, what happened last week, and what's going on this week. I'm here with my partner via Zoom, Dan Youngblood. And Dan, tonight we got a special guest. We've got Coach Chad Worrell of the Brock Eagles. They're having a great season.
Yeah, they are. This is a very, very good Brock team. You can pretty much say that every year. But having seen this team go up to Iowa Park and beat them, I think that he's got a special group this year. I think there are a lot of people that think that this is a state championship team, and I tend to agree. This is a team without very many weaknesses and with a whole lot of weapons. So I'm excited to see what they can do the rest of the year, and I'm looking forward to talking to Coach Worrell about this team and just about the season so far. I think that they've been every bit as good as advertised.
Well, frankly, I'm going to be surprised if we're not in Arlington covering the Brock Eagles at Jerry World come December, the way they're looking. I think they're definitely the team to beat in Region 1. But before we jump into tonight's show, let's thank our primary sponsor, Capital Farm Credit, with offices all over Texas, including Stanford and Abilene. Buy your own slice of Texas with Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. And with that, it is time to talk about last week's top games. And we're going to start with the Crosstown Showdown, the game that you attended last week, Cooper and Abilene High. It turned out about the way we expected. Cooper with maybe a little more offensive firepower and coming away with a 30-20 win.
Yeah, it was very competitive. Neither team held a two-score advantage until Cooper got a defensive touchdown in the final minute of the game. So it was neck and neck the entire way. Abilene High led until about the midway point of the third quarter, and then Cooper took a little bit of control, got a field goal to trim the lead, got a touchdown to take the lead, and then were able to get that defensive play late. But a very good game. One key note to that game is that Cooper running back Noah Garcia was not able to play. He was unavailable. He was being quarantined. But they did a good job in his absence. They got a couple of young running backs, Jeremiah Riley and Mekhi Fly, combined for almost 100 yards on about 25 carries. Aiden Thompson did what he does at the quarterback position, threw the ball well. They had a couple of turnovers that they probably would have liked back, but it was a strong showing for Cooper. And I thought Abilene High played well. I thought it was a good competitive game both ways. Abilene High got a pretty good game from Abel Ramirez. And really, they had lots of opportunities late. They had three chances late in the game to go and take the lead. They turned the ball over one time at the 5. They fumble inside the 20, and then they end the game basically. That scoop and score came on a fumble inside Cooper territory again. So just a very good competitive game. Both teams I thought played well defensively. Both teams made plays offensively. And Cooper, like you said, was just a few plays better.
All right, staying among the locals, let's talk about this Abilene Wiley Ball Club. Winners on the road at Lubbock Monterey, 24-6. Dan, how good is this Wiley defense?
I think so far very good. They played a Brownwood team that offensively hadn't been elite this year, but has been competent certainly. They shut them down, force a bunch of turnovers, and then do the exact same thing to Monterey. Which, granted, I'll give Monterey this. It was their first game. They did not get to play their opener due to COVID. But Wiley just shut them down. They were up 24-0 at halftime, and then in the second half, just kind of took the air out of it a little bit. But that was a big win for this Bulldogs team. I think the Brownwood team kind of put them on teams' radars, and I think this win, to me, kind of tells you just how good they are, and I think it adds some anticipation to this week's game against Cooper. But a good performance all around. Defense played great, forced a bunch of turnovers again. Quarterback Balin Valentine had over 250 total yards passing and rushing. Reed Hughes had a nice game receiving. Just another good win for the Bulldogs, and I think just a great start to the Clay Martin era.
And on the subject of solid defense, let's talk about the Hamlin Pied Pipers, who went up to Windthorst, and this was a very explosive Windthorst ball club, coming away with a 14-0 win at Windthorst. And I expected a little bit more scoring on both sides. I thought that Hamlin would be in the high 20s or so, and I thought that Windthorst, with all their explosiveness, would still get double digits. But they got blanked. They got a goose egg thrown at them. This Hamlin defense is about as good at the 2A D2 level that I've ever seen.
Yeah. In fact, I think this score may have impressed me more than had Hamlin won, 28-21 or something like that. Because the fact that Hamlin, we've known Hamlin's defense is good. You look at what they did against Hawley, what they did against Albany, what they did against Anson. But to do that against Windthorst, shut them out, I mean, there aren't many teams in that division with better offenses than those four you're talking about.
No.
I mean, to do that, very, very impressive. I think that, this defense, Hamlin's going to find ways to score the football. They're going to find ways to get the points they need in most nights to win. If their defense is playing like this, they're going to be very, very difficult to beat.
They have played 5 games. They are 5-0, and they have allowed a grand total of 18 points. They've got 2 shutouts. And against capable offensive football teams for the most part. Every single team they played thus far at the 282 level is going to be scoring quite a few points.
Yeah.
And one of them was, 2 of them are D1 teams. Anson and Hawley are going to be scoring quite a bit at that level. These are capable football teams.
And had their starters stayed in the entire game, they might have shut out Albany too. So you're talking about the defense that has just been lights out so far.
Thus far, Hamlin's opposition is 15-7 combined, and 5 of those losses are to Hamlin.
No, that's what's crazy. They're playing a really tough
schedule.
schedule.
And not playing Hamlin.
Yeah, they're playing a really tough schedule, and it hadn't mattered so far.
And with that, we'll jump up to Class 4A, District 5, 4A, Division 1. One of the biggest rivalries in Texas, Dan. The Stephenville Yellow Jackets went to Gordon Wood Stadium and came away with a 59-34 win. Again, about what we expected. We didn't know if Brownwood's offense could keep pace with Stephenville, which has turned every single game, with the exception of one, into an absolute track meet. That team's averaging 44 points a night, and that's even with a shutout loss to Lampasas. So this is a very explosive team, and now they're starting to gain some momentum. They got off to a 1-3 start. They've now won back-to-back games against pretty good competition, beating Dumas, 46-33, and then of course last week beating Brownwood. The Yellow Jackets are starting to gain momentum. They're starting to look good, and they've got Waco La Vega coming in this week, so they're going to need that momentum.
Yeah, and honestly, outside of the one win game where they got shut out in week 2, they could be 5-1 right now. They held double-digit leads in the second half of each of their next 2 losses. So I think that these last 2 wins have been big, and that they've gotten back to where their defense is making enough stops. But I think the thing that really impressed me is that to put up that many points against a Brownwood defense that to this point had been very good. That Brownwood defensive unit had been the strength of that team, and they were playing well. They bottled up Wiley for much of that game. So to put up 59 points just says a lot about what they're doing. And obviously Gavin Roundtree has taken to that quarterback position like a fish to water. Kason Phillips, one of the area's top running backs, but that offense is very, very difficult to stop. And
with that, we're going to get ourselves a little dose of insanity out of District 5, 3A, D2. I know Dan knows exactly what game I'm bringing up right now. The Eastland Mavericks with a win over Panhandle, 91-71. We knew it was going to be insane, but this was beyond insane. It was just Eastland is starting to gain its sea legs. They've won 2 games straight. That offense is coming around big time, and we're starting to see what everybody expected to see out of Eastland finally. They had a discipline issue early on. They've had some COVID issues, but now they're starting to produce the way we expected them to.
And what they're starting to do is play insane games. You mentioned the one 91-71 last week in the Panhandle. Before that, it was 78-54 in that game against McKinney Christian. So you're talking about a lot of scoring in these Eastland games right now. But you and I had talked about how high scoring we thought that matchup was going to be. I think it even exceeded the expectations we had to put up 91 points. Just incredible. And I think you're right. I think that they had this Eastland team faced some adversity early, some of it self-inflicted. And they're past that now, and they're starting to play kind of the way we thought they would. So it'll be fun to follow that team the rest of the way.
Big Country Press Player of the Week, Baron Morton of Eastland, accounted for 8 touchdowns in that ballgame, threw for over 400, rushed for almost 200. He's starting to show the talent that Texas Tech spotted. So, and finally, Dan, we got last week's Big Country Preps Game of the Week, the Sweetwater Mustangs beating their arch rival Snyder 47-28, and Darian Carr with a humongous ball game. That guy is a stud, 4 touchdowns receiving. This is Sweetwater starting to show what we thought they would show. They've won 4 straight since losing to Stephenville in their opener, and they're scoring 46 points a night. And if that defense gets just a little bit better, Watch out.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the weapons they have offensively, and it's really pretty impressive. Obviously, it starts kind of with Leo Halsey at quarterback, already thrown 17 touchdowns on the year. You mentioned Carr. He's been an outstanding receiver for years now. He's already had 11 touchdown receptions. Harrison Foster's another big play receiver. And at the running back position, they've got several guys. You look at Ethan Brockman, you look at Cedric Brown, and then a youngster named Camarion Sadler, who they just called up in the last 3 weeks. He's kind of risen up their rushing leaders list, and he's made himself a really big part of that offense. So just weapons up and down that offense. And if, like you said, if they just make a handful of stops every game, you're going to have trouble beating them. And that's something they've done really well the last couple of weeks. And I thought that Snyder win was impressive. That's been a very solid Tigers team to start the season, particularly on that defensive side. So to do what they did, I think really bodes well for the rest of their district schedule.
And with that, it's time to move on to the top games of this week. But before we do that, last week we showed you a photo, a diagram of defense, and it's still up on the board behind me. And nobody was able to identify it. We offered a free 1-year subscription to BigCountryPreps.com if anybody could correctly identify this defense. And we'll show you a closer look. We'll put the photo up here, and I'll give you a hint. It is a Canadian defense that was adapted for American football. And it was used in the 1990s by 2 different college football teams that were highly successful with it. And if you can tell us what it is by looking at that diagram, if you can correctly name that defense, we will give you a free 1-year subscription at Big Country Preps. So far, nobody's been able to identify it. And with that, let's talk about this week's Big Country Preps game of the week. It once again involves the Sweetwater Mustangs, Dan, and they've got basically their game of the year, in my opinion. They've got the Midland Greenwood Rangers coming to the Mustang Bowl, and I tell you what, if they win that ball game, they're in the driver's seat to win district. We did pick them to win that district. This is it. This is a really tough ball game, but if they win that, they're in the driver's seat. I picked them to win the district before the season. I'm going to go ahead and stick to my guns and go with the Mustangs, but this is going to be a tough one.
Yeah, you picked them to win that district. I picked them as the runner-up to Greenwood. So this has kind of been the game that you and I have had circled on our calendar in this district for quite a while. I'm actually going to go against my district pick. I'm going to go with Sweetwater. I think Sweetwater's offense right now is playing at a high enough level to find a way to win this one. I think the big key, though, is going to come on defense, where Sweetwater's going to have to find a way to contain Greenwood running back Trey Cross, who is a man. That kid is a fantastic back. He's already had a 300-yard rushing game this season, had close to 3,000 yards last season. Sweetwater's going to have to find a way to slow him down. You're not going to stop him. You're just going to have to find a way to keep him from taking the game over. If they can do that, though, I think that the Sweetwater team has enough firepower offensively to find a way to win. And I think if they do that, they're going to end up running the table and being the district champs by the end of the season.
All right, let's jump into some local action here. We've got Wiley at 2-0 facing Cooper at 1-1. This is a Cooper offense that has scored 65 points against combined 65 points against a pair of Class 6A football teams, good 6A football teams in Permian and Abilene. We're going to find out how good this Wiley defense is this week, in my opinion, against this Cooper team. Lots of weapons, lots of speed. We're going to see how good this defense is. It's going to be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be the biggest test that Wiley will have faced this year. But the one thing that'll be interesting to see is if Noah Garcia is able to play. If he's not, I think that takes a little firepower off that Cooper offense. But Cooper still has weapons, and that's going to be a challenge, I think, for this Wiley defense. But I think the big thing is that Wiley is finally equipped, in my opinion, to go on and compete with Cooper on the same field. They were not able to the first 2 times the first 2 meetings in this series. Both were lopsided games. Wiley really struggled to move the ball, couldn't score. I think this game's gonna be different. I think Wiley is going to come to the field expecting to win. Is going to play a very good game, and I expect this to be a very competitive game. But it should be fun. I think it is kind of strength on strength, that Cooper offense against that Wiley defense, and I'm excited to see how it goes. I've kind of been leaning Cooper all along, but I think I'm actually going to go against my first inclination and go with Wiley in this game, just for the fact that Wiley has forced so many turnovers to start this season. And Cooper has really struggled taking care of the ball at times. So I think that will be the difference in the game. I think that Wiley will end up with points off turnovers that will end up being the accounting for the very narrow margin in this game.
I'm going to go with Cooper. I have a difficult time seeing them getting shut down with the explosiveness that they've shown thus far at against Class 6A football teams. I'm going to go with Cooper, but it's going to be close. Wiley's defense will keep them in this ballgame. They'll have a shot at winning it.
And I don't blame you. I think if Wiley wins, it's an upset. I don't think that I'm just making the upset pick based on that one particular factor. I think that this Wiley defense has shown a really strong nose for the ball, and Cooper is still young in some places offensively and still has turned the ball over some. And I think if they do that in this game, I think that it could go the other way.
All right, moving over to Class 4A, District 5, Division 1. We've got Stephenville playing host to Waco La Vega, and what might be the biggest game in this district this year. The winner of this will be in good shape to take a run at the district title. This is one game that if Stephenville wants to win this district, they're going to have to win. But they're going to be the underdog against a Waco La Vega team that if there's anybody in this league that can match Stephenville's firepower, it is La Vega. They have speed all over the field.
Yeah, the one thing that's a little different, I think, early in the season, you and I kind of thought that this district title goes through La Vega, and I think we both feel that way. But I don't think it's as big a gap as maybe you and I maybe thought it would originally be. I think that when you look at Stephenville, you look at Midlothian Heritage, those teams all of a sudden look like that they have a shot maybe to compete with this La Vega team for a district title. And I think you're right. If Stephenville is going to do that, they're going to have to find a way to get past this La Vega team. One thing that's been a little bit interesting about this La Vega team until last week when they just wiped the floor with Waxahachie Life is they've struggled to score a little bit. We'll see if Stephenville's defense, which has struggled at times, can contain them. But this is a team that a La Vega team that has won more with defense so far this season than with offense. But if they get I think that's going to be the matchup. You've got a really explosive Stephenville offense against an outstanding La Vega defense. And then you've got a La Vega offense that broke out last week, but until then had been, scored in the low 20s really against a Stephenville defense that's kind of struggled. So I think it's going to be a fun matchup. It's going to be kind of a huge contrast in styles. And the winner of this one, like you said, is going to be circling that matchup against Heritage later down the year, probably for the district title.
I think it's actually it's a more difficult pick than I anticipated. I think Stephenville's got a shot at winning this game, but they are going to be underdogs. The athleticism of La Vega is still there. They did struggle a little bit offensively early on, but when you're facing teams like Cal Allen and Argyle and that sort of thing, these things happen. So. And then they did break out with 62 points last week against Waxahachie Life, which really wasn't a surprise. No, but Stephenville's defense is going to have to step up if the Jackets are going to win this ballgame.
I agree.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, they're going to score their points, but their defense has got to step up.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to see what the Stephenville offense can do against a defense of this caliber. But I do think you're right that the outcome of this game will be decided on the other side of the football, and Stephenville's going to have to find a way to make stops.
And with that, we're going to take a look at a Class 2A Division 1 matchup out of District 3, a matchup that you like, Dan. You think this is going to be an interesting game. We've got the Stanford Bulldogs heading over to Anson and playing the Tigers. This is going to be a tough ballgame.
Yeah, I think this one's interesting. Like you said, Anson's played really well this season. Outside of that one, hiccup against Hamlin, who's done that to everybody, they played very well offensively. And the Stanford team, I think, has really matured and come along pretty nicely for Coach Casey over their first 5 games. They've kind of figured some things out offensively. Sean Holden's become a real playmaker for him, just like Coach Casey said he would in the preseason. And they found some weapons around him. Raheem Smith at the receiver position is one of our area's leading receivers, and he's doing a great job. And they've got several guys like that who have stepped up. The one thing that I think is that they still need to work on is the fact that their running game is still largely dependent on what Holden gives them from the quarterback position. They've not been able to find reliable yards from that running back position, but they're passing the ball really well. Defensively, they've shown signs. They haven't necessarily been consistent, but they've shown signs.
That inconsistent defense is a concern, I think. There's really way up and way down defensively.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is they got to find a level of consistency, but they have had games where you're like, okay, maybe the light bulbs turned on for them. This is going to be a tough game defensively against this Anson offense, but I think this could be a really fun shootout, which is kind of why I've had this one circled as one that I'm looking forward to seeing.
Stanford has momentum. They played really well over their last 2 games. They shut out Sudan 38-0, and then they upset Archer City, a favored Archer City team last week, 54-46. They are showing some signs of improving offensively. They're just up and down defensively. They just need to find a groove and start playing a little more consistently. But this offensive explosiveness that they're starting to find, I think, gives them an edge in this ball game. I'm going with the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I think I'll still go with Anson, but I would not be surprised to be wrong about that one. I think it's going to be a really fun matchup, and I'm just excited to see kind of where this one goes. I think this is a big game for that district too, so this will be I think the winner of this one's got a looking at a pretty good shot at worst a runner-up finish. Obviously, they'll have some really tough games still to come, but I think that that this will be one where the winner will definitely have a leg up as they go forward.
All right, remaining in Class 2A, but we're going to be dropping down to the Division II level. We got a nice matchup that we've been talking about, Dan, since before the season. We looked at the calendar and we saw Santo heading across Plains and thought that was going to be a key ball game in District 8, and it still is. It still is a key ball game, and it's going to be a competitive one. Santo, when they're not playing up and they're outmanned by teams with superior depth, they've been playing pretty well. This is a 4-2 ball club, and they're going to give Cross Plains all they want.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good physical matchup, and I think it's going to be a tough one both ways. I think that these are both teams with talent. I think Cross Plains has been running the football really, really well, playing really tough defense. Santo's a younger team, but they've kind of got that flex bone offense to where when they're running it well, they put points on the board and do it in bunches. So I'm excited about this matchup. I really have been really since the preseason. I think with Albany in that district, I kind of view this more as a matchup for that runner-up spot than necessarily for a district title. But the winner of this will have a shot, I think, to play Albany for a district championship, and that's no small feat too. So I'm excited about this game. I give Cross Plains, a little bit of an edge just based on the fact that they've got a little bit more experience. This is still a very young Santo team, but Santo's talented. They've got a bunch of good young skill players and got a defense that has really shown flashes at times. So I'm excited. I think that the Santo team, you look at them this time next year, and we'll be talking about a very dangerous team. This year, they're a talented one and maybe a scary one, but I like this Cross Plains team to get by them.
I'm going to go with an upset. I'm going to take Santo on the road to win this game. They've played exceptionally well against teams on their level, and they have outperformed thus far virtually every expectation along the way in every game, with the exception of a loss to Millsap 2 weeks ago. But that's a 3A football team.
Yeah, and that's also a
3A football team.
And that's also a game in which they turn the ball over 8 times. So anyone who does that is going to struggle. But I agree. I think the Santo team's good. I think they're young. I think they're talented, and that's one thing that Coach Mann said before the season was that he liked the talent. He's like, it may take us time to get where we want to be, but he liked the talent, and I think you've seen some of that. And I think this game could be one of those where they do jump up and sneak up on a Cross Plains team. But I like this Cross Plains team. They've responded really well to their loss to Haskell, a game that I know that they were was a tough one for them. They've responded really well to that. I think they're going to find a way to get past Santo, but an upset wouldn't necessarily surprise me either.
I think it's going to be a low-scoring, very competitive, very physical football game, and I'm just giving Santo a slight edge.
This is going to definitely be an Evan Wren type of football game, I think.
And lastly, we've got a nice matchup in Class 3A. This is District 4, Division 2. We've got Coahoma traveling up to Idalou. This is a battle of unbeatens. Coahoma at 4-0, Idalou at 3-0. We'll see how much ring rust there is. Both of these ball clubs have missed a couple of weeks in a row because of COVID, but we shall see. This is a much better Coahoma team, Dan, than we thought we would see. They have played very well, and they've this is going to be the best team that they have faced thus far, though.
Okay.
They look good against Forsan in their opener, but everybody they've played since then is sub 500. This is going to be the best ball club and the biggest test that the Bulldogs have faced up to this point.
Yeah, and I'm going to pat myself on the back here for just a minute, because I did think that this Coahoma team maybe was going to be one of the surprises, but even I didn't think they would be quite as dominant as they have been so far since that Forsan game. It was so close. They've really put things together. Bryson Kirby's having a big season running the ball, and they're playing really well defensively. They've just played very well under Coach Jocelyn. So I like this Coahoma team, but I do tend to agree this Idalou team will be better than any team they've faced yet. However, I think this will be a much closer game than we probably thought it was going to be at the beginning of the season. I think that we kind of looked at this one as being a pretty tough matchup for Coahoma, but the way they've played, I think that's kind of what's put this on our radar. I think that this game is seen as the type of matchup it is because Kahoma has been so good to this point. So I'm excited to see how this one goes. I'm leaning Idalou. I will pick Idalou. But I think that Kahoma does have what it takes, certainly, to keep this one competitive, and I'm excited to see if they can do that.
I'm going to go with the Wildcats at home, but I would expect Kahoma the way they're playing. And this is, Chris Joslin's really good at getting those kids fired up. I mean, he's really good at letting them know who said what about them and getting them fired up. And it's often me or you that serves as that motivation. But he does a great job of motivating them. I'm sure Kahoma will show up at Idalou ready to play, but I will take Idalou to win.
Yeah, I will too. But I just to piggyback on your point, I think Coach Joslin's done a remarkable job.
Tremendous job.
Yeah, a great job. He's got them playing really well. And that's one thing that I thought was interesting doing during the preseason, talking to the linebackers I did for the feature, was that they didn't want to have a drop-off just because they lost a big senior class. They wanted to show people, hey, this is a program and that we're, as a program, heading in the right direction. And so far, I think they've done that. And this is the type of game, if they can find a way to win this one, I think it's kind of a statement win for them. So I'll be excited to see if they can go out and get it and prove the two of us wrong. I think they certainly have that capability, but it is going to be a tough matchup.
And with that, Dan, it's just about time to bring on Brock head football coach Chad Worrell. But before we do that, we want to thank some of our sponsors. First and foremost, Capital Farm Credit, of course, who brings you these Wednesday night podcasts free of charge throughout the school year. Also, for the Love of the Game broadcasting on our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of K-Lakes 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, KATX 97.7 FM out of Eastland, KROO 1430 AM out of Breck, and KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That is for the Love of the Game broadcasting. And also Phil Hill of the Abilene Realtors Group, big supporter of local athletics. If you're in the market, give Phil a call at 325-669-5153 or visit his website at philhillproperties.com. And finally, Underwood's Cafeteria in Brownwood. As you're driving through town, look around for the big cowboy sign and you'll find it. Some of the best home cooking in the big country. That is Underwood's Cafeteria, a landmark in the big country since 1946. And with that, Dan, it's time to bring on the man, Chad Worrell of the Brock Eagles, who may very well win a state championship this year. I know that coaches don't want to get jinxed and start talking about that sort of thing too early. And but as journalists, we have a bad habit of doing that. And it's tough not to talk about it. They're playing that well.
Yeah, they are. But I think you kind of made an important point. They had two teams, I think, the last 2 years that they thought were capable of winning state championships, and both fell in the semifinals in really close, kind of heartbreaking games. So it is really hard to do. It's really hard to get to Arlington. It's even harder to leave there with a victory. But I like this team. I like this team's chances, and I'm excited to talk to Coach Worrell about the group he's got.
Well, they're not only solid defensively, as always. Brock's always known for solid defense, but they are explosive offensively this year. They're putting up a ton of points, and when you mix the two together, that's deadly.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they got the running game with Cash Jones, but they've added a big play passing attack with Jackson Gleaton at the quarterback position, and that makes them very, very dangerous. You put that type of explosiveness with the defense they have, and it's tough to beat. So I'll be interested to talk to Coach Worrell about that as well.
And joining us now from Brock, head football coach of the Brock Eagles, Chad Worrell. Coach, thank you for joining us. Looks like you're in your pickup truck here tonight.
I am. Had to run to last minute trip to Lowe's to get a new dryer. So you caught me in the truck.
All right, Coach. Right off the bat, just a dominating start for your ball club thus far. Are you surprised? Is this what you expected? Do you expect your players to play this well, or are they above and beyond what you expected?
You know, Evan, we knew coming in after last season and the spring that we were having in track that we were going to have some speed and some explosiveness, and our coaches kind of went to work on implement some new things during the shutdown that we had in the spring and summer, and so it's not a surprise to us. We knew we had a talented group of kids, and we're not playing perfect football right now by any means, but the kids are playing hard and getting better, and I like where we're at this point of the season.
And Coach, in a lot of cases, we'd be talking to kind of a coach in your situation about handling the expectations of success, handling a number one ranking, those sorts of things. But your program's a little unique in that this is something that I mean is not rare for you guys. Y'all are kind of always in this situation, and that's a huge credit to the program you built there. But how much has that success and that experience in the past kind of helped you just in terms of kind of keeping things in perspective and handling those expectations?
Well, I think that's a good question. Our kids are, it's not every year we're off to a 5-0 start, or every year we're ranked number one in this poll or that poll, but we're usually at the top, and the kids know, and the community expects, and the kids expect to win a state championship and compete for a state championship every year. And so, with that said, it's not any more pressure on this bunch than it's been on the last few years that we've had.
Along those lines, y'all, like Evan said, y'all have gotten off to just a really dominant start, a lot of lopsided wins. With that being the case, how important was that Iowa Park win to be a challenge into the fourth quarter and kind of have your mettle tested a little bit? How important do you think that will be as y'all go forward?
Iowa Park's a quality football team, and they're going to win a lot of football games. And it was a it really was a prize fight, and we took each other both shots, best shots that we had, and so it's going to do nothing but make us better. As you go through this district, our district's tough, and we're going to have, we're going to be challenged, and we're going to, have people, including Whitesboro this week, who come out and get after us, and our kids know that, and our kids know that to expect that, that we're going to get everyone's best shot whenever they play us, and we've got a target on our backs, and that Iowa Park game was one of the examples where, we had to earn everything that we got from that game, and so our kids learned a lot during that game.
Coach, the Brock Eagles for years have been known for great defense. This year, you are averaging about 60 points a game. How does this – I don't recall a Brock football team with this much offensive explosiveness. Is this the most explosive offense that you've ever coached?
The 15 team, we set the score. We had the highest scoring offense in the nation that year with 888 points. But in terms of like having as many explosive guys, it reminds me a lot of the 15 team. Now we're doing a lot of different things offensively that even opens that up even more. But we're truly too deep at every skill position, and that helps us to keep fresh bodies out there. So in that aspect, we're probably deeper than we've ever been. And definitely, with ability, we got a lot of kids that can score from anywhere on the field.
And that kind of leads me to the question, the next question, you mentioning that 15 team. And I know coaches don't like to rank teams. I'm not going to ask you to here, but this team, just in terms of talent, in terms of depth, in terms of those types of things, how does this team stack up with some of the best you've had at Brock?
Well, they're out there. I mean, that they haven't reached that pinnacle yet of making that playoff run, but this group, talent-wise, where they're at, and after 5 weeks of the season, they're right there with the best of them.
Coach, let's look at the region that you're in. What are some of the threats that you are concerned about? If you're going to get to Arlington, who are some of the teams that are going to scare you the most?
Oh, well, I mean, it's always Region 1 plays good football every year. We've had to battle through it, and you've obviously, you've got the Walls and the Shallow Waters, and with Jim Ned with the impressive win last week. And, of course, in our district, you've got Boyd and Pilot Point who, rank up there in the top. And Bushland's going to be just fine, after they had a hard, really, really hard start to the season with the schedule that was laid on. But they're coming on now. So, I mean, you're going to have – there's good football teams out there in the region. You're going to have to play good football week in and week out to win Region 1.
And, Coach, you mentioned that district, and I think last year that was probably one of the better 3A D1 districts in the state, if not the best. And when you look at what they did in that first round of the playoffs in particular, you mentioned Pilot Point, you mentioned Boyd, Whitesboro this week. How do you think that district kind of stacks up as compared to kind of what y'all had faced last year in there?
Well, I think it's really a better district overall. Bowie's much improved than what they were over a year ago. Their kids are back. Paradise, everybody thought would be down, and I really think they're a better overall team than what they were last year. Boyd has everyone back, and this is a class they've been building towards for the last 6 years. And Pilot Point, they're going through some injuries right now, but they've got great coaching, great talent, and I just think our district from top to bottom is a better district overall than it was last year, and deeper.
Coach, you have the state goal of winning a state championship. Right now, you're winning by about 46 points per game. if I'm you, I'm wanting, a few more close games to prep, for that run. If you keep winning it with these spreads, it almost creates a disadvantage, doesn't it?
I don't know how that works either way. Whenever you're playing close games last year, we hardly had a blowout during the season, and when we got to the playoffs, our kids were kind of got worn down towards the end from having to play 4 quarters every week, and we were beat up by the end of the playoffs. We had a lot of injuries that stacked up on us, and so if we can win some games, by a bigger margin, you can get the starters off the field, get the backups some more quality playing time, and I think that helps you prepare you for a playoff run, for those guys being able to step in and play. And so I think it's a glass half full type deal. There's positives to both sides.
Well, it does help keep you healthy, which you'll have to. Everyone wants to stay healthy, and that's always important if you're going to get to Arlington. If you continue to win like this, at least you can get those guys off the field and lessen the risk of injury.
Well, yeah, and we know. Our kids know we don't ever go into a game expecting to win by 46 points. We go into each game expecting a fight for 4 quarters, and that's kind of the way we prepare our kids, and that's the mindset that our kids take on. And you can't always get them to approach each game like that, but that's our goal each week. We really do, try to. I know it's an old coaching cliche that we don't look down the road, but we do it. We really work hard on trying to get our kids to focus on the opponent at hand, and then if we were able to go out there and take care of business and get our reserves on the field and get some of our starters off and save their legs, then that's an added bonus.
And Coach, you've got a lot of kids back from that team last year that got to the state semifinals. A lot of those kids were probably called up from JV for that playoff run 2 years ago. 2 years in a row where y'all were just on a razor's edge from making it to the state championship game there. How much do you think that experience kind of impacts these kids, just seeing how close y'all were the last 2 years and kind of wanting to get over that hump?
Yeah, I think it's definitely driven us since we come back to school in January. Just with kids are hungry. They know they've been close 2 years in a row, a pass interference call, and 2 years ago, and then last year just a heck of a play that Pottsboro made down the stretch, and they know we were close to being able to go back and play for a state championship, and I think that leaves a little sour taste in their mouth and a little hunger to push a little harder in practice and lift a little harder in the weight room to get over that hump and get back there.
Coach, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be keeping a close eye on you as always, and I'm sure we will be running into you out there on the road here very soon.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having us on.
Appreciate your time. Good luck. And that was Brock head football coach Chad Worrell. I don't know how to encapsulate how good this Brock football team is. I think both you and I mentioned it earlier, would be surprised if we're not going to see them in Jerry World in December. They are that good.
Yeah, no, I agree. Having seen them in person and having seen them each of the last 2 years in person before this, I think that this is the best team that they've had in the time that we've been covering them. And that's saying something. We're talking about 2 state semifinal teams, 2 years ago, one that was, kind of loaded with really top level talent, a couple of D1 kids on it. So for this one to be as good as it is, and like I said, in my opinion, the best that they've had maybe in their short history, yeah, you're saying a whole lot. This is a program that has accomplished so much in such a short period of time. And this year's team is scary good. If you're in that 3A D1 bracket, that is not a matchup you're looking forward to in the playoffs, regardless of what kind of team you have. So it's going to be fun following these guys the rest of the way. I think I tend to think you're right. I think we're going to be following this team all the way to Arlington. I think they're that good, and I would not be the least bit surprised to see them close out this year with their second state championship win.
And a special thanks to Coach Worrell, who has always treated us very well every time that we have worked with him. He's always been very kind to us at Big Country Preps. It's always a pleasure to go out there and work with them. And just a special thanks to the coach. And with that, it's just about time to wrap up the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday Night podcast. But before we do that, we want to remind you, we've got 3 different subscription packages here at Big Country Preps. We've got a monthly for $5 a month. We've got a semi-annual 6-month subscription where we knock that price down to $4 a month. And then we've got an annual subscription, a full year, where we knock that down to $3 a month, $36 for a full year of Big Country High School athletic coverage.
And we'd also like to remind you that if you ever see a photo you like in any one of our galleries, it is available for just $7 each. You can click that small shopping cart icon to the bottom right, follow that prompt and purchase as many of those as you would like. But we take a whole lot of photos. There are a whole lot of galleries up there. You can check out our photo archive, which includes just about every photo we've taken since we started this site in 2018. So do that. That's something we're very proud of here at bigcountrypreps.com.
All big country, all high school, all the time. Welcome home.